Welcome back to DIY Today. What could be more all-American than apple pie? It's always a crowd favorite, but John is going to show us a way to make it a bit more portable.
Apple pie is always a favorite around the summer or the holidays, but sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to get it from point A to point B. So we thought we'd show you a fun way to make it a little bit more portable, and we're actually going to make some small Dutch apple pie cookies. Now it may sound a little bit odd, but once you try them, I don't think you'll want to go back to toting around a big apple pie again. Now Jema is going to help me out by peeling. This is just a small Granny Smith apple, the same type you'd put in an apple pie. And I've already got a few of those diced up in a pot here. Now to this pot we're going to add about a quarter cup of just plain granulated sugar, a nice big tablespoon of just regular cornstarch, and then about a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Another ingredient that you probably had in just about all of your apple desserts is lemon juice. Now for this one we need about 1 to 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, so 1 large lemon should be fine. If you have a lemon that you're not sure if you're going to get a lot of juice out of it, just give it a nice roll on your countertop before you cut it, and that sort of gets the juices flowing. We'll cut it in half here. And when you're squeezing it into your bowl or your pot, just kind of squeeze it through your fingers so that way you catch any of the seeds that might fall out of it.
That's a neat little trick. I haven't seen that before.
If you've had to pick out seeds from a lemon dessert or anything one time, you'll definitely want to try to keep them out of there in the future. So that's about 1/2 of it. There's our seeds. If you're also having trouble getting the seed or the juice to come out of your lemon, you can even pop it in the microwave for about 10 seconds, and that usually helps a good bit too.
Oh, those are some pretty great tips.
Anything to make it easier and quicker in the kitchen is always good with me. All right, so we've got those, and Jema has an expertly peeled apple here for me. So what I'm going to do is take this and just cut it in very small pieces, kind of like what you would see if you were having oatmeal or something like that. Just cut the apple in half lengthwise and then into quarters. And then a quick way to get the core out when you're working with apples like this, just turn one of those quarters on its side, just kind of cut down at an angle, and the core part of it just kind of comes out whole. So we'll do that with each quarter of our apple. And if you don't get all of it out, that's okay. Just make sure you get all the seeds out. So now each of these quarters we're going to take and cut into little thin slices. A couple more to go. And of course, we always like to have kids with us helping in the kitchen, but the chopping of the apples part, that's probably better if the adults do that. Then once we have them chopped up here, we're going to cut them into little tiny chunks, like I said. And the best part about this kind of dessert is it doesn't have to be perfect. I know when a lot of people make apple pies, they'll use the store-bought apple pie filling, and that's great when you're just making a whole pie, but for something like this, you really do need the smaller hand-cut pieces just because of how small the finished product winds up being. Almost done here. All right, we'll slide our lemons and apple cores off of our cutting board here. And then all of our apple pieces can just go right into our pot. And then once you've got all of this put together, you're going to put it over medium heat, and it's going to cook for just about 5 to 10 minutes. You don't want it to cook down very much because it's still going to go in the oven later. This is just enough to get the apples softened and let the cornstarch mix with the apple juice and lemon juice and start to make a nice thick syrup around it. Now, Jayma's going to keep an eye on these apples for me because since we have all that sugar and stuff in there, we don't want it to burn. But like I said, it should just be about 5 to 10 minutes just until the sauces start to come together. The next most important part of any apple pie, of course, is going to be the pie crust. So we've just got a store-bought refrigerated pie crust. They usually come 2 in a box. Cut that open. We can get it out of our plastic here. There we go. Now what we're going to do, you can just roll this out on your countertop. If your pie dough starts to get a little sticky, you can put down some flour, or if you even need to pop it in the freezer for a few seconds, you can certainly do that. Now normally you would be rolling it onto a pie pan or some kind of other dish. What we're going to do, get it nice and flat. Just take your favorite drinking glass or anything else that has a diameter of about 2 inches or so, just big enough to fit inside the cup of a muffin tin. We're going to take this and cut out a few little rounds that'll fit nicely into our little muffin cups. And we've got 6 cups in here, so we'll cut those out. If you're making more, what you can do after you've gone around once with your glass and cut out your circles, you can just gather all the dough up and roll it out again with your rolling pin. Or if you're like me and sometimes you can't find it, you can just use the can of some nonstick spray and just roll your dough out that way. So first what we're going to do is prep our pan by spraying it so that these don't stick. And we'll take each of our rounds and just tuck them right in the bottom of the pan.
Well, those fit perfectly.
They do. It's a perfect size. And like I said, if you don't have a drinking glass that's the right size, I'm sure you could find cookie cutters or anything like that. And they'll come up the sides of the muffin cup just a tiny bit, which actually works perfectly because then they sort of hold in all that apple filling once we fill them up. One more here. Then we've got all this dough that we can just roll it back out again and we can make some more. Each recipe of this should make somewhere around maybe 20 or so of these cookies. But of course, if you use a smaller diameter to cut out your dough, you'll get a few more out of it that way. The next thing we have to have is our topping that's going to go on top of the pie. So I've got here, this is about 2 1/4 cups of flour. This is just plain all-purpose flour. So we're going to dump that into our bowl here. Then here I have 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar with 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar mixed together. And then I have 2/3 of a cup of old-fashioned oats. Now you want to get the old-fashioned. You don't want to use the instant kind for this. Old-fashioned is definitely best. And then just a little pinch of salt on top of those. To this, we're going to add, this is a little more than 1.5 sticks of melted butter. I think it works out to about 14 tablespoons, so definitely low fat. Pour that in here and use our whisk to mix it all together. Now this is going to kind of look like the topping or a crumble that you might put on top of a cobbler or something like that. Now we're not making a dough here. This is still going to be pretty dry once we've got it all mixed together.
Smells so good.
It really does. Between the apples and the cinnamon and everything else going in here. Once we get this all mixed together, you'll know it's about the right consistency when it looks kind of like wet sand. So if you stick your whisk in it, it'll still kind of clump in there together. I think we're just about there. All right. It looks like Jayma has got our apples here for us.
Those look great.
They really do.
They smell delicious.
It looks just like apple pie filling, doesn't it? Now what we're going to do is we'll take just about a tablespoon of our apple mixture and we'll put it in each one of our cups here.
Now this is a part the kids can help with.
Oh yeah. And you can let this cool down a little bit. It doesn't have to be super hot. because like I said, it's all going to go in the oven in a minute anyway. A little more in that one.
Those look good.
They smell great. I'm really hungry right now. Another way to stretch the recipe outside of using a smaller glass to cut out your dough, you could use more or fewer of the apples. If you have some bigger apples, probably only need maybe about 3 or 4 of them, but if you have smaller ones, about 5 should do the trick. Now that we've got that in our muffin cups, we'll take the same amount of our crumble topping and just put a nice big heaping tablespoon of that on top of each of these.
It does look like wet sand.
It does. If we get a little bit around the rim of the baking cups, that's okay. We'll clean that up here in just a second. All right. Now the only thing we still need to do, we'll take our glass again that we cut out our dough with, and we'll use the bottom edge of it just to kind of pack it in there just a little bit so that we don't have any loose pieces on top that might burn. Get some of this excess off here so it doesn't get done before the rest of it. And there we go. Now they are ready to go into a preheated 350-degree oven. Now they're only going to go in there for about 17 to 19 minutes, so not as long as you would have a normal pie. Just enough for that crust on the bottom to crisp up and get a little bit of brown color on our topping. So we'll go ahead and pop these in the oven.
I can't wait till to see what they look like when they get out of the oven. While we wait, Jamin and I are going to tackle snack time with some super fun treats that your kids are sure to love. We'll be back.